Hey everyone, it's Sam here from Sugar Spun Run, and today I'll be showing you how to make homemade cream puffs. So I'm really excited to be sharing my homemade cream puff recipe with you today. This is a really pretty simple recipe, but there are a few steps involved and a little bit of technique. So I'm going to be walking you through this whole process and show you exactly how to make cream puffs in your own kitchen. So the first thing we are going to do is we're actually going to make a simple vanilla pastry cream. This is pretty simple. We're not taking any shortcuts and using instant pudding mix, which I know is pretty popular with cream puffs. So let's get started on the pastry cream. We want to do this first because it is going to need to chill for a couple hours before we can fill our cream puffs. So to get started, you're going to need a medium-sized, heavy-bottomed saucepan. We'll place this on our stovetop. We're going to add 1 cup of milk and 1 cup of heavy cream into our saucepan. And we'll also add a 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And today I'm going to be using a vanilla bean. Now you can substitute vanilla extract instead. I'll explain that a little bit later on. You won't add the vanilla extract at this point if you are using that, but using a vanilla bean is going to help really give this pastry cream a great flavor. As you can probably see, I've gone and broken this one in half and I've just split it lengthwise. That way the vanilla bean seeds can really escape in the pastry cream while they're cooking. So I'm just gonna toss these in. And we'll turn our stovetop heat to medium, and we're just going to stir this pretty frequently until the sugar is dissolved and the mixture comes to a simmer. So as soon as this is simmering, we're going to remove our saucepan from the heat. We're going to set this aside and we're going to let it cool for at least 10 to 15 minutes. Meanwhile, as your cream mixture is cooling, it's also going to be steeping, really working in that vanilla bean flavor. You're gonna let that cool for 10 minutes, and in the meantime, we're going to move over to our egg mixture. So you are going to need 5 egg yolks, no whites, just the yolks for this recipe. We'll add 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar in with our egg yolks. And we're just going to whisk together the egg yolks and the sugar until the sugar is starting to dissolve a little bit. It's going to be about 15 seconds of whisking. So once you've whisked in your sugar, we're going to add cornstarch. This is 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. This is going to help thicken up our pastry cream. So we're just going to add this over the egg mixture. And we'll whisk another 30 seconds or so until the cornstarch and egg mixture are well combined and the mixture has even thickened a little bit. So now we have our egg mixture ready, and once your cream mixture has cooled for at least those 10 to 15 minutes, now we're going to combine the two. You have to do this carefully though, because you do not want to cook your eggs. So we're going to slowly add the cream mixture to the egg mixture while whisking. So you can start to just slowly drizzle this in straight from the pot. What I'm going to do is just use a measuring cup. I'll scoop up some of that. And while I'm whisking, I'm just going to slowly drizzle this in. And I'll just repeat that with another cupful. So what we've done here is we've tempered our egg mixture by slowly introducing the cream mixture, the hot cream mixture, to the eggs. So now we can add the rest of it without running the risk of cooking our eggs and curdling the mixture. So I'm just going to pour the rest of this cream mixture into the eggs while whisking. And you can toss those vanilla beans in there too, that's fine, where they're going to get strained out in the end. So we're doing a little bit of back and forth, and now that we've combined these two, we're going to actually pour this back into our saucepan. And the reason we're going back and forth like this is because it's important that you slowly introduce the cream to the egg mixture. You can't slowly put the egg mixture into the cream mixture or you're going to immediately cook the eggs. So we have to slowly transfer everything over to the bowl and then back to the saucepan. We're putting it back in the saucepan, and now we are going to take this back over to our stovetop. And we'll set our heat to medium heat, and we're just going to whisk this constantly until it's thickened. It's going to start to bubble. You want it to reach that kind of pudding consistency. It doesn't have to be completely thickened. It's going to continue to thicken as it cools, but once it starts to really thicken up, you want to remove that from heat. So once we've removed the pastry cream from the heat, you are going to want to keep whisking this for a couple seconds. The pan is still hot. You don't want the cream to burn to the bottom of the pan, so just keep whisking it for a couple seconds longer. So now we're going to actually strain the pastry cream into the serving dish or whatever you're going to be holding it in until you're ready to use it. So I'm going to be using a fine mesh strainer here, and I'm just going to set this over my heat-proof bowl. And I'm just going to pour my pastry cream through the strainer. Now the cream is pretty thick, as you can see, so it's not going to just go through the strainer on its own, so I'm going to use my spatula to just kind of help coax it through my strainer. And as you can see, those vanilla beans are going to get left behind. We don't need them anymore at this point. The reason you want to strain this mixture is because just in case any pieces of egg got cooked or you have any lumps in here, putting it through the strainer is going to filter those out, so you'll have a nice smooth pastry cream. And just when you thought you were done whisking, we do actually have a little bit more to do. Now, if you were using vanilla extract instead of a vanilla bean, you would add that now. You'd add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract at this point. And we're also going to add 4 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter. Now, we're just going to add 1 tablespoon at a time, and we're going to whisk really well after each addition until all of the butter pieces have been completely combined into the pastry cream. Alright, so this looks pretty good. Our pastry cream is actually pretty much done at this point. All it needs to do now is chill. So what we're going to do is right now, while it's still warm, you're going to need a piece of plastic wrap. And we're just going to push this gently into the surface of the pastry cream. Just press that surface of the plastic wrap into the surface of the pastry cream. And this is going to help keep a skin from forming on your pastry cream. You'll want to let your pastry cream sit at room temperature for about 20 to 30 minutes or until it's really cooled down and is almost at room temperature itself. And then once it has, you'll transfer it to your refrigerator where you will want to let it chill for at least 2 hours before using it. While that pastry cream is chilling, now we're going to want to make our choux pastry. So this is actually a pretty simple pastry. I'm going to be using my grandmother's recipe. It only takes a couple of ingredients, but we are going to need that saucepan again. So you'll want to make sure that's cleaned, and let's head back over to the stovetop. You'll also want to go ahead at this point and preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we're going to add 1 cup of water to our saucepan. And we'll also add 1/2 cup or 1 stick of unsalted butter. We'll also add 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And we'll turn our stovetop heat to medium, and we're going to stir this occasionally until the butter is melted and the mixture comes to a boil. Once our mixture is boiling, we are going to add 1 cup of all-purpose flour. So I'll just pour that over. Once I've added the flour, I like to turn down the heat just a few notches so we don't burn anything, and I'll keep working everything together. So I'm just going to stir this now with my spatula until all of the moisture that's in the pot is absorbed into that flour mixture, and you kind of have like a dough ball here. As you can see, it's clinging together. So once everything is looking pretty good here, we're going to remove this from the heat. Now, once I've removed the choux pastry from the heat, I'm going to go ahead and keep stirring it for another minute or two just to help it cool down a little bit. Now we can go ahead and add our eggs. So you're going to need 4 large eggs for this recipe, and you want them to be at room temperature. We're just going to add them one at a time and stir really well after each addition until they're completely incorporated into the pastry. Now I'm just going to transfer this pastry into a large piping bag. If you don't have one this size, you can actually use a large Ziploc bag instead. We'll just want to snip the edge of the pastry bag. I'm just going to take a piece off the end. And now we'll pipe our pastry, and we're going to pipe this in mounds that are about 2 inches wide by about 1 inch tall. And you'll want to space each cream puff about 1.5 inches apart. All right, so don't these look beautiful? One thing I'm gonna do before we pop them in the oven is I'm just going to lightly dampen my fingers with a little bit of water, and I'm just going to gently smooth down those tops. Now we'll head over to our 400 degree Fahrenheit preheated oven, and we'll bake our cream puffs for about 30 minutes or until they appear dry and a light golden brown color. Once your pastry is a light golden brown and it looks dry, as I mentioned, you're going to want to take it out of the oven, and you're going to need a sharp knife. I'm going to use this knife to pierce each cream puff. You want to go in around the center of each cream puff, inserting the knife about halfway into the cream puff. Now they did just come out of the oven, so they are hot, so be careful. These cream puffs are now going to go back in the oven, where we are going to turn off the heat. So turn off the oven and leave the oven door cracked, and we're going to let them sit for another 10 minutes. This is going to help keep them from deflating and sinking in on themselves. So once they've had that extra 10 minutes in the oven, you'll want to remove them from the oven and let them cool completely before we move any further. Once your cream puffs have finished cooling completely, you are going to want to go grab your pastry cream out of the fridge. Now I'm going to transfer this into a piping bag that I fitted with a small tip. I'm actually just using a Wilton 6 tip here, a 5 or a 6, any small pointy tip will work well. Now all you have to do is fill your cream puffs. Now, if you remember that hole we pierced in each cream puff when we took them out of the oven the first time, you're just going to insert the tip into that hole and just squeeze the pastry bag to fill until the cream starts to come out. We'll repeat this with all of our cream puffs. Now we're going to add the finishing touch, and that is just a light dusting of powdered sugar. Now personally, my preference is to dip my cream puffs in chocolate, but that technically makes them an eclair, so we're just going to be doing powdered sugar today. And that is all there is to making your own homemade cream puffs. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe. If you try it out, please let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Hey, if you guys enjoyed today's cream puff video, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. Make sure to hit that notification bell and please subscribe. Also, if you enjoyed today's recipe, here are a few others you might like as well.